Hey everyone, today we're traveling a logging road here that's right next to the Canadian border running parallel. It's about a mile in on the right. I was a couple hundred feet from the border not too long ago. There's an intersection that's right at the border, so you basically go up to it, take a left-hand turn, and this loop goes right back down. I'm not sure if it's going to be passable or not all the way through. Some of the roads this time of year, they are not passable. There is still multiple feet of snow on some of the roads in the dark areas of the trees down in the valleys. But this road here seems to be in pretty good shape, and I think it's because the Border Patrol uses it. I just had a conversation with the Border Patrol that stopped in the road, and I was driving by them, and they signaled me to put my window down, and they just asked me what I'm doing. And I told them I'm out here photographing, searching for clogs and stuff. And they talked to me about how they patrol this area because it's so close to the border. It's such a remote area. You know, some of these logging roads, you'll drive down them days this time of year. Because they're mud holes, nobody drives down them this time of year. But I personally think they're really fun to drive this time of year. But it keeps most people away, so when they see a vehicle, they said they always want to see what's up, because this area, when they do see vehicles out here, every now and then it's someone who could be picking someone up that illegally crosses through the border. Because it's such a remote area, they're not really going to notice some random person walking through the wilderness that crosses over the border. So that's why they need to check things out sometimes. But I even pointed out to them, my passenger seat has a giant pile of trash. I literally have a case of water, a case of protein shakes here, all kinds of stuff. Whole back seat is full of gear. When I sleep, it all gets stuffed into the driver's seat. So there's no way I'm picking up a passenger comfortably, at least. Sorry about the rattling. This is a pretty bumpy road right here, but it's maintained a lot better than some of the other mud holes we had to go through to get up here. Now, I'm looking at the map, we're probably like 3 miles from the border now, because now we're not running parallel anymore, now we're diving down. So apparently these roads, we passed by a couple of these things that have solar panels and sensors, and I guess there's a camera on there that reads license plates that go by. That's kind of cool what I learned about. I've always realized that when you drive into the United States, they got these big contraptions you drive through. It's basically an X-ray that can detect how many people are inside of a vehicle. Canada doesn't have those going in. They don't have that technology. So Canada will search you quite often compared to the United States, because Canada doesn't have the technology to scan a vehicle that I've ever seen. But I learned about license plate cameras. Even a muddy license plate, it can read through the mud. It's looking for the indent. That's kind of cool. I didn't know that technology existed. But today we are out looking for road hazards. We'll see what we can find. Okay, the road conditions have deteriorated. You see the road is trickling with a lot of water. You could basically sink anywhere. You don't really know. Even though it looks rocky, you don't know what's underneath that. Further up, yep, we are encountering some deep snow. I'm just going to turn around on this road. We could explore it maybe after mud season. I'm not exactly familiar with this area. This is far northwestern Maine. These roads I typically don't drive. We're going to turn around though, because we have like an intersection right over here. I love when we come across these really primitive cabins. We're way out in the middle of nowhere. We'd have to drive about 3 hours to get back to paved roads in Maine. Only a half an hour to pave roads in Quebec. The border's near here. That's why the Border Patrol is always on these roads. So forward is the way back. We're gonna try one more route and see if it's winter passable. If it's not, we have a long way backtracking. Look in the road. Look how many moose tracks there are compared to vehicle tracks. A lot of moose up here. More moose than people. Did Did you know that in Maine there's almost 2 million people, but a whole quarter of the state only has 10,000 people? No one lives around here. This is kind of cool. I'm guessing this cabin is abandoned, maybe. It's got roof damage. It's also right next to this creek. It would only have to rise a couple of feet to flood it. But the plywood does look pretty new in there. It's boarded up. They usually board up these cabins so bears can't get in them easily out here. There's no glass on the windows, so maybe it is abandoned. I'm not sure. There's a newer building next to it that looks used. I actually had a bear a couple weeks ago try to get in the truck when I was sleeping. That's a first. It didn't cause any damage, but it came back 20 minutes later, so I decided to relocate myself for the night to sleep. Some of these roads got pretty big mud pits, but thankfully mud season is starting to come to an end. See this mud right here? If I was here a couple of weeks ago, I'd probably get stuck in what I'm driving through. I'm not even in four-wheel drive, and I went through that pretty nicely. The roads are finally starting to dry out since temperatures aren't really going below freezing much. Temperatures right now are 37 degrees or 3 Celsius. It's still pretty cold out right now. It was even snowing a little bit earlier, but mud season is basically over. Frost isn't really happening too much. Bears are out of hibernation. This time of year, the moose are very, very active, which is fun. This right here is an unusual logging bridge because it's actually 2 bridges. You see, they're not even lined up completely straight either. So the middle, I think, is technically an island. It's attached to an island, which is kind of cool. Never seen one like this. And you see how we go down a big dip. They do this intentionally in case the river floods. It won't wash out the bridge. It'll just flood right here. Yeah, so I backtracked a bit because one of those roads was snowed in. The other one was in okay shape, but it kept getting more and more narrow. It was likely going to just become a dead end. So right now, we're back a couple hundred feet away from the Canadian border here. The road straight ahead isn't even on the map. You see there's power lines going down there, so that likely heads into Canada where this power is coming from. If we look down there, that's the Canadian border down there, that far away building. You see where the road turns a different color. They use a different type of gravel once you get into that Canadian town. The little green building you see there is a forestry checkpoint when these roads eventually open. They're not open right now because of mud season. This is going to be a late year because it was a colder winter. I always love seeing the creative buildings that they have out here in the middle of the woods. Oh wow, can you see that dust cloud? That tree just fell over in front of my very eyes. We're on a bridge right now, and I literally just turned around because I want to get this little one out of the road. That one up ahead didn't fall across the road, but I guess it is a pretty windy day. We could get blocked in somewhere. I don't have the chainsaw on me, but I do have a handsaw. I'm sure with the winch I could pull a tree in half, get it out of there. Anyways, I just turned around to get this thing out of the road because it's right in front of the bridge. Ooh, it is really windy out here. Hey, this tree didn't fall down by itself. Beavers did it. And I'm gonna actually look into my dash camera. It might be blurry in the distance, but I want to try to get the footage of that tree falling in the road out of there. We got a sign that fell over here. Is it stuck in the ground, or is it something we can temporarily put up? Okay, we'll temporarily put it up. Yeah, see, they don't concrete it or anything. And up north, basically anything that's not buried in the ground 4 feet is going to get lifted up by frost, unless it's completely dry, drainable land, which none of this is. So this is called a breakaway post. That's why they're always in 2 pieces. Those bolts are supposed to snap off if you hit it, so it folds and you drive over it instead of it possibly going through the windshield. It's supposed to snap off. So we're just gonna jam it in the ground. We're gonna zip tie it to that tree for now. It's a temporary fix that'll probably be a permanent fix, because unless it falls down again, they're not gonna touch it. Pretty good for 4 zip ties onto a tree. All right, everyone else was driving around this. Looks pretty small. I want to get into the middle of it where I can get a little bit of its bulk. We're gonna tow it out of here. And the reason this thing has probably been here for a while, they're not logging this area, but they're stockpiling until mud season's over. Okay, we're attached. Comes. Now where are we gonna put it? Let's get off to the side if the shoulder's not soft. It's a little bit soft. You know what? Good enough. Tension off it. Let's disconnect. This bridge right here comes as a major surprise for me. And the reason that is, how do the double wide log trucks get across this? Do they just not use them in this area? Because that's really weird, because the sawmill is literally part of the wilderness, so that they can use trucks that are double wide, double height, overweight, deleted engines, all kinds of things that are illegal for the road. I don't see the double wide trucks getting across this one. It's a bit weird that they chose this sort of bridge here. Ooh, there's a moose down there on the coast. Look at that. Cool. It was a perfect shot. I didn't get the camera out in time. It was staring right up here. But we're on top of a big bridge. Really big bridge. Kind of scary how high we are with no railings. Look at that, everyone. There's a flock of turkeys right there. Alright, we're turning around right now to fix a stop sign, just like we did with that other sign earlier. See, varying elevation. That area was foggy and wet and snowy. This area is pretty dry. There's no snow right here. So I noticed this right here. Has anyone ever been using Google Maps and it'll show you there's a stop sign coming up, but it's not for you? The AI does that. You see how the stop sign is facing this way? It's not for the main artery. It's supposed to be turned for the road that's entering there. So we're gonna fix this stop sign here. Somebody just, you know, put it up there because it obviously fell down. Frost will lift these things out of the ground. I'm just gonna get some zip ties and properly face it towards the road it's meant to go to, instead of it just being facing down here where the leaves are just gonna grow in and block it in a month anyways. There we go. Problem solved. It only took a minute. Now it's facing the right way at least. Maybe they'll fix it, but likely that is going to be the permanent solution until it falls down again. Well, the roads in this area seem to be... Oh! That sounded awesome! Yeah, these trees aren't very strong. They're balsam fir. Every tree you see here. This is a tree farm. The logging company plants them close together for maximum profit. They're not very strong. They're like toothpicks. A lot of them come down. That's very common to see during windstorms. So make sure you have some way to clear the road if you get blocked in. But they're very weak and they don't weigh a lot. You can pull them out of the road pretty easily. But I was saying this area has very good maintenance, so we probably aren't going to return here to really look around. I stopped right here because, wow, the water was up to the road here last year. And look, there's a beaver lodge. That's brand new construction, and I know it's definitely brand new construction just because you can see it hasn't faded in yet. It looks like new lumber. But also because the water was up to the road and flooding over last year, and that would have been so far underwater. Look at that, there's another tree there that snapped too. And that's recent because you'd see water lines on it if it wasn't. But anyways, if you remember a culvert that I tried to unclog, we got it open a little bit, but obviously these are so big it would have been dangerous to completely open it. This is the culvert where I was unclogging it. We found a dead skunk that the beavers added to their dam. Yeah, this was an incredibly massive one. And look at that. They didn't even get it completely open. They only opened one of them. Look at that over there. I guess we'll put blue ribbon up so they know there's some sort of issue. And hopefully when they see the blue ribbon, they don't just stand up there and look down. Hopefully they actually come down and witness that, because basically half their capacity's gone if there's a large storm and these things have to work. Because there's a reason there's two of them and not just one of them. Sometimes there is a ton of water that has to come through here. Just look at the size of the riverbed. And because there's only one, it's backing up and actually flooding the riverbed a bit. If that one was open, the flooding there would be minimalized a lot. Wow, look at the wind. Is we gonna get another one to fall over? You walk around in these tree farms during a windstorm, it is scary. You hear cracking all the time. Trees falling down around you. Ooh, look, there's still a snowbank down there. And look how deep the water is here. This is literally deep enough, and it's sparkling clean. If it was summertime, you could do a cannonball in there. All right, I put up some ribbon, yellow and blue. The yellow means there's a risk to the road washing out. Well, basically it's a safety issue. In case this floods, it could wash the road out, especially when the road's not frozen. And the blue means there's a water issue, so hopefully road crews get to that, made it super noticeable for them. Look at that. There's a turkey down there. That tree wasn't down either when I came through here a couple hours ago. See how this road is kind of a mess right here? It's because a couple weeks ago, this part of the road went deep underwater. Went deep underwater from the river up here that flooded. It didn't really cause any severe damage to the road because it was mostly frozen. Right here's also a spot that was a bit underwater. Left behind a bunch of potholes and other stuff. And here's the bridge. The river's already pretty big, but the bridge couldn't handle it. gonna get out right up here and take a look at this. I think it was likely a culvert that got clogged with ice. It just froze in the winter. It caused a bunch of damage to the road, then the pipe opened up and the flood went away. Let's go see if we're right. Let's investigate this. So here is the culvert pipe, functioning very nicely. It's very deep in the ground, so I don't think frost damaged it. You see there would have been a large flood here. It started eroding. It dug down a little bit as soon as the road defrosted. We come over here. The pipe is wide open. It could be partially collapsed, but the fact that there's no flood, I'm thinking the end is just low compared to the middle of it. I think it was ice that caused this. And I gotta bring you up close. This is a lot worse than it looks from a distance. See, a bunch of different people marked it. There's a bunch of different colors there. It's pretty abrupt, and that's why you find logs on the side of the road sometimes. Okay, here's a good example of one that probably didn't melt yet. Maybe it's a collapsed pipe. It could be either or. There's really no way to find out what's going on under the road unless you can physically see it collapsed. Could be frozen still, it could be collapsed still. The ground is definitely still frozen in some of these areas. I mentioned this area seems to have very, very good maintenance. Whatever operator made this ditch right here did a very, very good job. You see the road is very smooth. It's in very good shape. They carved out this ditch very nice. It's not too steep where it's gonna start collapsing. They also left the grass up here. That grass is gonna produce seeds in like a month. As soon as grass comes out of hibernation, it usually makes seed immediately. That's why when I used to do lawn mowing as a job, I would always encourage customers to let it grow extremely long at first, and then when it drops its seeds, mow it. Then it grows in super thick and rich. Well, those seeds are gonna fall down there in the ditch, start growing grass, hold it together very, very nicely. There's a culvert. And I've showed a lot of operators that don't seem to understand certain things. And right here, it works out really good. You see how they built that nice little wall right there? So basically, if the culvert here that's collecting the water on the hill gets clogged, it can go over this little hill, down the ditch further, and not flood over the road. I've seen some operators make that wall as high as the road so it floods across the road if the pipe gets clogged. And they also put a bunch of rocks there at the beginning of it until grass starts growing and holding it together so it doesn't erode. Very good job right there. This is such a clean drainage ditch. Usually you don't see an operator that makes a ditch this clean looking. It's very, very nice. Usually it's all jagged and messed up, as if they were in a mad rush. But this is a very nicely done ditch. I just had to show it. Very beautiful ditch. I think they're about to start logging this road at some point over the summer. That's why they're doing a lot of improvements on it. And I don't think they got to this part yet. All right, now that we got up here to the end of the road, back to the main artery, there's a ton of damage right here from over the winter. Can't even make a full turn because this part of the road is so destroyed. Look at all that erosion right there. All that erosion there. Some of those crevices are over a foot deep. That's because the drainage ditch is non-existent. It's completely filled in from neglect. It's a lot of erosion there, but they'll fix that very quickly once they grade all this, fix it up a bit. All right, what do we have here? This one doesn't have any markings, so we're probably gonna have to put up some blue ribbon. Oh yeah, totally. The grader must have pushed it in and can't even tell where the pipe is. Oh, it's so windy still. Oh, wow. Yeah. Let's put some ribbons up. I can't even tell where the pipe is. Beautiful signs of spring. Look at all the little flowers everywhere. Pretty soon these roads are going to be lined with lupine bushes. Now this hill doesn't look very bad, but if you look down, there are a ton of rocks. So as you go down this, it's boom, 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 boom. Well, what happens when a log truck comes down here is that shaking. It's nothing abrupt, but the shaking is rattling logs out of the trucks. They lost 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Look at this. There's some full logs right here in front of this culvert pipe that fell off of a log truck at some point. I bet you I can't get this out of here. Maybe it's not too big. It's definitely waterlogged and heavy. It's been in here a while. And this one too. Yeah, that's super heavy and it's up under the snowbank. The road is blocked up ahead from all the heavy wind we're having today. I'm gonna go ahead and probably drag that out of the road again. Is it one or maybe it's a couple of them? Yep, road's blocked. And we got a really messed up pipe right there, but that's already marked. It looks like we might have to drag a couple of them out of the road. We're gonna have to get that tow strap back out. Yeah, I don't even know if we can drag them, but we're gonna try to at least break them. The reason I don't know if I can drag them, they're completely snapped off at the bottom, but they're stuck into a bunch of trees, so it might not make this corner when I try to drag it off. I could drive around this, but I'm not gonna scratch the truck up like that. I'm gonna try to get this out of the road. We'll time lapse it all. All right, there's actually 3 of them. I just wrapped it around 2 at the same time. Let's see if we have the power. Okay, let's turn the wheel. We didn't break anything. What you just heard was how I connected it just shifted because there's a lot of strain on this. It doesn't weigh a lot. I've had trees that I've dragged that are so heavy we needed 4-wheel drive. See, we're just gonna put it here off to the side. Now we're gonna disconnect. We gotta take tension off, disconnect. We'll grab the other tree now. There is a lot of sap. This is a fresh kill. There's sap all over that tow strap. Okay, now let's go grab the other one. Maybe it wasn't 2 trees. Maybe it just forked at the top of it because it only has 1 base. I don't want to put a lot of strain on the transmission, so we're not going to pull it if it's not coming. It might be still connected to the ground. We'll try to give it one more tug in the direction it wants to go. No, it's connected to the ground, but it's clear out of the road, so we're going to leave it there. Yeah, at least we got the road open. They can get it open better with their machines. Just want to show you it's out of the road. Yeah, I'm not gonna risk my transmission trying to break that. I'm sure I could have broke that. Oh, that's why it's not coming. It didn't break, it uprooted. Half of the roots are still in the ground. Yeah, I probably could have ripped it out of the ground, but I'm not gonna risk my transmission for that. They have millions of dollars in their bank account, I'm sure, the logging company. I don't, so not doing that. There's another one that fell, but that's not in the road. And we're still very deep out here. Oh my gosh, is there more up there? There might be more. We just went by a logging camp. I'm not sure if you could see that building. There's more trees up here, but they're not in my way. There's some logs waiting for the truck to take them out. No trucks right now because it's mud season. Okay, this I think is a fresh one that fell. And the next one up here is what we moved out of the road this morning on the way in. Crunch. Yep, that's us earlier. Look at this, everyone. As far as the eye can see, look at this gigantic clear cut of trees. Well, they replanted it. Look how small they are. And you can even see the sign of when they planted it. That's so you know. 2020 is when they planted all these baby trees. So they've had about 4 years to grow to this height. Now they're about to start their 5th year. Looks like a Christmas tree farm. Look at that. After about 40 years, they'll cut them all down. Then they'll replant again and again. There's no more old growth out here that they are logging. There's patches of it here and there. They don't log that anymore. Even if it wasn't protected, their equipment can't handle trees that big. But this is basically a giant tree farm. This is how you get your lumber. A lot of this area, they're growing balsam fir for lumber. A lot of this stuff here will be marked with the tag. If you live in New England, if you go into Home Depot or something and you see it marked Irving Lumber, that's what all this is. This is Irving Lumberland. This is where it's grown in northern Maine. We're gonna drive by their facility in a couple hours and I'm gonna show you how huge the operation is. I guess I do a pretty good job explaining to everyone how the logging operations out here work. They replant everything when they're done. They clean it up a bit. All the debris they leave on the ground, even though it seems like a mess, it degrades back into fertilizer. Maine has never had a problem with forest fires, so they don't really have to clean it up like they do out west. You'll see logging sites with large piles. Well, here, this is sustainable logging. That's how they give you lumber. That's how you get paper products, toilet paper. It all comes from places like this. Around here, there's a lot of lumber. The woods we usually explore is more pulpwood. It could be anything from pressboard, chipboard, toilet paper, regular paper, all that kind of good stuff. This is how it's possible to have all this stuff. Without these logging operations, life would be a lot more difficult. And I don't get many people that complain, so I guess I do a good job explaining it. I see some videos of people cutting down trees and the comments are going nuts over it. But I guess people understand enough in my comments that this is a crop, it's grown, replanted, and the animals actually love these wide open areas because mixed in there is raspberry bushes that take probably a decade to get completely shaded out. The deer love it, the moose love it, the bears love it. Now this clear cut right next to us, if we come across a sign, I'll show it to you. This is more recent. The seedlings are so small, we'd literally have to walk out there to see them. This couldn't have been more than 2 years or so since this in particular spot right here was logged. Yeah, every now and then I'll get a comment of just someone, I'll respond to them, and you just can't reason with them. It's just someone that I guess wants to troll or whatever it is, but there's very few people that can't say they don't own a piece of wood in their house. There's very few people in the United States who can't say their house isn't made of wood. So very big hypocrites when that comes to play. I even get a few comments here and there mad at me for removing a beaver dam that's in a culvert pipe flooding the road. Little do they know, unless they live in the desert, what do you think used to be where your neighborhood is? A lot of hypocritical comments like that. I actually don't get as many. I'm surprised how few of those I actually get for the videos I make. But I want to show you some of their large facilities once we get to them. And I want to show you a few of their areas that they planted. I want to get out and show some of them that are a little bit more grown, some of them that are very beautiful. But like I said, some of these areas have blowdowns because it's not big trees. Now out west plants the same way, but the thing is, old growth is big enough where forest fires, which are natural, they clean the forest floor, it's supposed to sweep through. But because there's no more old growth, the branches are low enough where it causes massive, severe fires. Around here doesn't have that problem, but there's some areas you just shouldn't be replanting in this same exact way. Here's another very recent clearing. You can't see their plantings coming back quite yet. Maybe if we walked out there, we'd see some seedlings, but this looks extremely fresh. This was probably last year. They may not even have replanted this section yet. But if you look at these areas from satellite images, it looks like a giant checkerboard. A little here, a little there, all different areas of different growth. Look at all the wildflowers right there growing. Yeah, they didn't replant this. I highly doubt it, because this has only been about a year, this one here. Now these companies right here in this area put up these nice signs. These are not companies that I'm affiliated with in any way. Now this is 2022 that they planted this area here. It's still very windy. That's how big they got. 2 years of growing season. You see? They're just starting to pop up, and see how they're evenly spaced. When they get bigger, it'll shade out all the debris. It'll rot, turn back into fertilizer. The last clearing we drove by was only about a year old. They haven't even put the sign up yet because they didn't replant it, but that's 2 years of growth. Look at all the baby seedlings. In reality, these are probably 3 years old. They don't plant seeds. They come through here sometimes manually. They'll have a crew that comes out here individually planting them by hand. Sometimes they'll have a machine in the more flatter areas, but probably 3 years old. They have little seedlings that they grow in facilities, and then they bring them out here. I hope you can hear me over this wind. This area here was actually replanted. They have a sign saying 2024. So these seedlings haven't even had a season to adjust to the ground or even start growing yet. You look over there, they look like toothpicks what they're taking down. You see how they snap in the wind. When they clear cut, the ones on the edge are vulnerable because they rely on each other to withstand the wind. Once you cut it down, the ones on the edge aren't used to this super strong wind, so you'll lose some of them. The sign over here says this was replanted last year, so I just want to show a couple of the seedlings that they'll manually plant. This one looks like it'll probably die. This one right here, you see, wasn't planted very good. We can just, the ground's actually still frozen down there, but we'll give that one a chance. Start growing nicely like that. Hack it in there. But yeah, they do have machines that come out here and plant them. There's one right there that was planted. It's kind of hard to find some of them that are so small. We got a moose in there. There's a moose in there. Okay, we got proof that a machine's doing it over here, because you can even see how it cultivated. There's humps of dirt that have the trees planted on top of them. This is 2022 planting. As far as the eye can see, look at that giant replant up and over the hill. All right, everyone, right now we're driving through 1994, and over here on the other side of the bridge, we're about to come into 2021 area. So the areas like this you see replanted are usually for lumber. The areas where they just let whatever grow back are always usually pulp. It can be used for other things though. They'll sort it out into different types of trees and they don't replant those areas. Those areas are more healthy actually because there is biodiversity. This area is called a monoculture. If a disease or a bug comes in here, it's gonna kill every single tree because they're all the same. Now, I don't know if they modify these trees at all before planting them. I have no idea, but if you're wondering, the state of Maine has over 16 million acres of tree farm where it's the same sort of stuff. Now this area is really beautiful. Now this looks just like a Christmas tree farm, about the same size that you would pick up for your house. Personally, my family's never bought living trees. We always had an artificial one, the same exact ones that every single year. Now in a Christmas tree farm, what they would do is every now and then somebody would come out and they'd snip all the ends of the branches off so they grow fatter and thicker. Now if we look back in here, it's even thicker there. I kind of want to walk back there and show you that. You see, there's a lot of stuff here. It'll start to break down eventually when these shade everything out. So these are a bit taller than me. 2017, so that means they started growing these inside a massive facility in 2016. Now what I'm making my way back to right here is 2008. I want to bring you back to, which is already growing extremely thick to the point you can't even walk in it. That right there. Extremely healthy trees. I remember when we had a big drought during 2020 and 2021. Those years in some cases had mass die-outs because the trees were just too small to survive it. Oh wow, this place is enormous. As far as the eye can see. This replant. You see the hills over there? The maple hills? They don't cut those areas. That is maple sugar farms. But if you look up there, that's a massive cut they just did, and they'll replant it all soon. We're gonna take cover from this horrible wind inside of the 2008 area. Here we are. Cover. Oh wow, this is actually pretty cool in here. Look at this. Whoa, this wind is strong. Oh yeah, it is. Well, it is a nice little flat spot to camp. 2008 trees. Right here. Not too big yet. So 2008, 2028. No, 2018, 2028, 2038, 2048 is when these will probably go to the lumber yard. Maine has a very rainy climate. Did you happen to notice in the 2008 right there? There was no debris on the forest floor. It's shaded, which means it's always wet. So the decomposers and organisms can break it down. The floor in there was perfectly clean. Right here, there's berry bushes everywhere. Mostly raspberries in this spot. Thankfully it's not blackberries because those have horrible thorns to be walking through. Sometimes it'll be blueberries. The moose even like to munch on these trees. That's another reason animals, deer, moose, this actually helps them because old growth, they can't reach any of the greens. You see these frost heaves right there? Those frost heaves don't look like very much, but I really wonder what the boss says when the log truck comes back to the sawmill and it's empty. And those didn't just fall like that, those were all over the road. And they must have got pushed over by some sort of heavy equipment. They lost like half their load. Now it's not exactly the log truck's fault for driving too fast. Some of these locations are hours and hours away. Time is money. You gotta drive fast on these. And some of these bumps are around corners and I can't even stop. I hit them with more speed than I would like to. Those 200,000-pound double wide overstacked trucks cannot stop. And they hit them. That's why almost every big hole in the road will have logs next to it. Yeah, think about it like this. Let's say those log trucks were driving half as fast. They arrived to the sawmill completely full. versus losing 5% of their load driving twice as fast. Do you see what I mean? You can get a lot more done in a shorter amount of time if you sacrifice a little bit of your load. Same thing with me. If I was to go very, very slow on these roads, I'm not going to be able to get as far. But if I drive really, really fast, and maybe every couple years I would happen to break a shock, it's worth it for the amount of speed you are saving around. You know what I mean? I guess we'll let them fix this one because there's no tree to attach it to, unless I put it on the other side of the road. Every single time there's a big bump in the road. Wow. Look at them all. Look at all those logs that fell out of the truck that people had to roll over or with a heavy machine push out. Look at them all. Not exaggerating, we have drove by thousands of them today that have fallen out of trucks. These roads are already starting to get dusty. In the summertime, it'll be so dusty if a big truck goes by, you can't see anything for a couple of minutes. See the trees over on the left, how they're all pushed over and you see all the bark has been skinned off them. That's the snowplow that did that. Well, I just turned around because I want to get a big tree out of the road. I don't think I need to use the truck. I think I can move it myself. It's dead and it's probably pretty light. Still, look, there's a big one, there's another one. Look at all the logs that fall out of the trucks. They're all over the place. Now this probably fell on the road from the wind because that wasn't there this morning. That was as light as a sponge. No wonder that broke. Had no structure to it at all. Here's a better angle. You see how the snowplow skinned all the trees, trying to make the road as wide as possible in preparation of more and more snow. All right, everyone. Here's where they have a lot of log trucks. But the trucks aren't running right now because the roads are too muddy. They should be running by June. These are the trucks that they fall out of when they go over big bumps. Here they have a big stockpile of logs. And this is not even the big sawmill. We're going to drive to the really big sawmill, which is not too far away. Look at all those logs. Sometimes I see people in the comments section asking, why do they stockpile so many logs? Well, that's so the sawmill can keep running during times like this when it's too muddy to get more out. And across the road is the finished lumber stacked and ready to ship out. Now we're going to turn around because we have another road that's going to bring us to the other sawmill. And over here, they don't have any of the double wide trailers. Maybe this company just doesn't use them because I mentioned that bridge earlier. But usually the sides of the truck adjust. It extends out to double wide. I don't see them using that at the moment. Maybe they were still bringing stuff in and out while it was still soft. Look at all that. Look at all the trucks. Come June, we'll come up here and we'll get some good footage of all the trucks driving by when the roads all get super dusty. That's always so interesting to see the giant clouds they make. Look at all those logs over there. This isn't even a couple percent of what they have across their yard. You just can't see a lot of their storage area. As far as the eye can see, just giant stacks of logs. And they even ship out some of this stuff by train. Yeah, there's one of the railroads right there that'll take it out and ship it out. There's nothing that says we can't drive in here. Plus, they're not working today. Let's drive and just look at what they got in here into one of the lots. This is one of their many dozens of lots of logs where they just store everything. Look at that. Wow, look at these towering walls of log. Wow. They sure have a big supply here. And over here, that's a giant pile of wood chips that's left over when they make lumber. Now, what do they do with that? That gets shipped off usually with trucks to wood-burning power plants all around New England. Well, northern New England, a lot of our power is considered green energy. We're burning wood chips left over from the logging company. They even power some of their own equipment with it. It smells good in here. That's kind of sad. I see barn swallows. They might be making nests in this, thinking it's safe. Some of these roads that I guess have better drainage already dried out well enough. They already fixed this road with the grader. It's so super smooth. You can drive over 50 and it feels awesome still. I'm making a massive dust cloud though. When they grade the road, it means the surface is loose, meaning it dries out faster in the sun and makes more dust at first. All right, everyone, we made it to one of the biggest sawmills in Maine. This place is absolutely enormous. We're gonna turn around up here so the sun's not blinding us so we can take a good look at it. All right, we're gonna turn around. The sawmill's right there, but I came down here to turn around. They made this really cool homemade bridge structure. Look at that. And I noticed all this water backing up. I thought it was just flooding because you see the riverbed and you can even see where the grass is. This is usually all grass right here up to there. But there's a big clog that they'll have to excavate here. And if we look down, 2 gigantic culvert pipes with a big old blockage. And it doesn't look like a hard blockage. That looks like it would actually be a lot of fun to take apart and send it on through when the water's low. Let's look on the other side. Today's actually pretty chilly. It just didn't get warm out. Here we are at the railroad. See, they got railroad access in there. What is that? Is that discarded garbage timbers? That's what it looks like. It looks like a massive stack of 2x4s that just wasn't good enough. They'll probably end up burning that or adding it to the wood chips for the power plant. Last time we drove by this place, they were producing a lot of smoke out of those stacks. I guess it's burning clean today, or they're not doing the same stuff today. Look at all this. This is one of the biggest lumber facilities in Maine. Can you see the vast amount of logs? It is so vast. Wow. That is so many logs right there. And it's more than you think. Like I said, there's dozens of these lots. This is by far the biggest one. And to put into perspective, look how many aisles there are of nothing but logs. How many millions of trees do you think are in here right now? I could drive 10 minutes and it's just aisle after aisle after aisle after aisle of logs. The bigger ones there are white pine, but most of this is balsam fir and spruce. A lot of those places we got out to show you was spruce. Now we're gonna drive into the facility. We're allowed to take this route through. All right, I put you in the windshield. Now the first time I drove through here, I felt weird driving through here, but on Google Maps, this is an actual road going through. There's the weight station there for trucks that'll actually go on the road. I got videos, plenty of videos of the double wide trailers, even though we're not seeing any today. I think these are the double wide trailers. I'm pretty sure those arms, you pull a pin and they slide out. No hunting, men working. But nothing says we can't drive through. This is actually a road. I don't know if we can go to the right. It doesn't say we can't. I'll give you a shot in there, but this is like the wrong angle because of the sun. See the big logs, which are white pine. There's a lot of different stuff. That looks like maple, what's closest to us. But if we drive down here, you're gonna see so much lumber. There we go. There's the lumber starting there. Wow. There's so many empty train cars that are about to get loaded up with this stuff. Look at all that lumber right there. Let's zoom in a little bit. Look at all that lumber over there. Huge facility. Nothing says we can't. I think I'm gonna take a lap through here. I don't even think they're functioning today. Could be wrong. Doesn't say we can't come in. If we see a sign, we'll turn around. Caution. Wow, the sheer amount of logs here. I'm gonna go into four-wheel drive just in case. We're just gonna take a lap through here, then we're gonna get out of here. That is towering above us. Massive wall. Definitely need four-wheel drive in a place like this. They even dated the piles on the ends. November some of this stuff is from. Alright, we're gonna head back on out of here. I'm not sure if somebody's in that weight station there or not, or if it's just a vehicle parked there, because the trucks aren't running, so I don't know if it's just a guard at the gate or something. But that's a road going through on Google Maps. Like, if I plug in a gas station or anything, it tells me to drive through that yard. It's kind of cool. There's a sign there that says, sign in to get visitor pass. Maybe I'll shoot them an email or a phone call. That'd be kind of cool to get permission to look around in there or get some sort of tour. That'd be cool to make a video of the inside of that facility. I don't think they're working today. It's a Sunday. Maybe that's why we don't see smoke coming out of any of the stacks. I don't think they're kiln drying any wood. I don't think they're working today, because usually you'd see machines driving around between those piles. If it was a day that I thought they were working, I wouldn't want to be driving around those blind corners, because that's one of those places, just like out on the narrow logging roads. There's certain logging roads you got to pick up your CB radio and announce mile markers so everyone knows where you are. I got a CB radio in here. but none of the trucks are running. There's no reason to be using any of that kind of stuff today. There's even signs around there telling you what CB radio channel to use when you're navigating the yard. But it's a Sunday. I don't know if they run 24 hours. It looks pretty dead in there. If there are people around, it's very limited employees. I'm sure there's someone there 24 hours a day in a facility like that, just so there's no vandalism or anything. There's got to be at least a security guy that was watching us through a monitor. There's got to be something in a place like that. But I think we'll end the video here today. I hope this was interesting to people who don't live near anything like this. It's an extremely rural area, as I mentioned. Barely anyone lives in this part of the state. And anyone that does, they're probably working for the logging company in some way or another. Pretty interesting. Now we are on our way back into the wilderness again to spend another week out there clog hunting, filming beavers, and similar activities. Have a great day, everyone.